Before we get too far into it, if you haven't read Ninth House, it is Leigh Bardugo's adult fantasy debut. We follow Alex, who is tapped for a full-ride scholarship to Yale after her dark past and unique characteristics catch the eye of Yale's secret societies. We follow Alex as she learns about the world of Ivy League's secret societies and tries to unearth and solve multiple mysteries throughout the course of the book. Hellbent is book 2, and it is set a few months after Ninth House. Let's get into it. Okay, I'm in my guest bedroom to get away from the football game, but I am on about the 150 page mark, 170 pages of Hellbent, and I figured I would do a little reading update just because I hadn't talked about it yet. It arrived last night, and so I couldn't help but start reading it. I got to about the 90 page mark last night, and then I've been reading again this morning. And something that I realized when I was doing my reread of Ninth House was that the first time I read it, I was so just trying to get through it and follow the plot that I didn't really absorb it. So the first time that I read it and I finished it, I was kind of not sure how I felt about it. I definitely had liked the plot, but there were some aspects that I didn't really understand or didn't really follow. But on my second time reading it, this time around, it was so good. And I took my time. Well, I read it over the course of 2 days, but I felt like I followed so much more the story this time around because I had already read it once. The first time I read it, because the story is not told chronologically, I had a hard time kind of following some of the pieces and where they fit in. But this time around reading it made so much more sense. I was super into it. I just was really, really pumped to get Hellbent. And so part of what I'm struggling with right now is trying to not have that happen again, where I'm rushing through it for the plot points and not for the, savoring the story. And so that's been kind of challenging. So far, I really like it. I mean, we're 170 pages in and not a lot has happened. There's been some small plot points and some small updates. I mean, the vibes are there for sure. And what I loved so much about Ninth House is still there. And so I'm just waiting for more things to happen. And I'm curious if this is going to be the end of the duology or if this is going to be the the second in a series, or I'm just curious is basically where we're at. I don't know yet if I love it or not. I mean, it's beautiful. I can't deny that, but I'm just curious and wanting to see what happens. This story is told much more chronologically than Ninth House, and so it doesn't have that same kind of mystery of you're trying to figure out what's happened in the past, but things are unfolding as you're going. And kind of slowly, but I'm hoping that it kind of builds up tension. And there's been, there was a time jump between Ninth House and Hellbent, and so just trying to see how it develops. needless to say, I'm gonna get right back into reading it. I'm excited to see where it goes. It's about 470 pages, so I still have about 300 pages to go. So I think that a lot can happen in 300 pages, and I'm hoping a lot does happen in the next 300 pages, and that it kind of, you know, escalates as we get going here. I am more than halfway through Hellbent now. I'm on page 285, and things are definitely picking up. I was excited because I could feel that we were building towards something, and it was only like at the 250 page mark, so I was like, great, we have like an extra 200 pages to go before the end. Like, we could definitely hit the moment we've been waiting for and then keep going past that. But what we were waiting for happened, and it was like a tease, like it didn't actually succeed. If you read the book, you know what I'm talking about. And so now we're waiting, and I'm really hoping that we're not just gonna keep waiting and trying and then get to the climax of the plot point right at the end and leave us on a cliffhanger for another like 3 or 4 years. So I'm gonna keep reading. I might finish this tonight. I don't know. I still have like almost 200 pages left, like 190 pages. So we'll see. But yeah, fingers crossed. I'm still hopeful. But yeah. Good afternoon. Last night I finished Hellbent. And I have some thoughts that I'd like to share with you. Overall, I gave it 3.75, rounded up to 4 stars out of 5. Once I reread Ninth House, it was so fresh in my mind that I couldn't help but compare the two. And Ninth House is a lot about discovery. You don't know a lot about the main character's past. You don't know a lot about the world that she's entering into. There's a mystery that's unfolding. So a lot of that book is about discovery of the world. And so that is one of the most interesting parts about the book. And because this is the second book in the world, you don't get that same kind of discovery feeling, and it didn't really go much deeper into the world that she is already in. I'm thinking of like Muse of Nightmares as like a second book in a series or a duology that kind of shows how you can like go deeper into the world or expand the world. That being said, it is hard to write book 2 after a very explosive and impactful book 1. I think that like this focus was just so much more narrowed, the story, the plot line, because you had the context of book 1 going in. It was much more focused, and like that's not bad, it's just very different from how book 1 was written and how it kind of turned out. And there are supposed to be like several emotional moments in this book, reunions, flashbacks, you know. It is still a very dark book with lots of trigger warnings, so check those out if you're gonna read this book or the series. But for me, the emotional moments didn't really hit as much. It felt like we didn't really get to savor anything, and even if we did, like the moments that those were happening was like in the middle of action, and so we were trying to get through the plot, or at least I was trying to get through the plot to see what happens, and so I didn't get to like properly savor. And maybe that's something that I talked about how the first time I read Ninth House, like a lot of things went over my head and I didn't absorb them or I didn't appreciate them until the second read through. So maybe that is the same with this one, but overall 4 out of 5 stars. Definitely a little underwhelming, I think, for how much hype was surrounding it and how excited I was for it, but overall it was a good book. It delivered on several things that I wanted to happen in this book, and it definitely sets the stage for a third book. So yeah, I don't know if I'll have to wait 4 more years for the next book, or what comes next, but yeah, on to the next. And with that, we are at the end of the video. So far, I've read 1,000 pages in January and 3 books. I'm hoping that the books I read next are more than 3 or 4 stars. I'm hoping that I can find some new favorites this year. But so far, the books just haven't been hitting quite the same. And with that, I will see you in the next one.